You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 315. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life.
We're
Hey,
back.
Steph.
Hi,
Yes.
Michelle.
Another week.
Another week.
And we have our topic already ready because we discussed it last week.
We did. And I loved, you said the most beautiful thing about why people should write their books, even if no one reads them. Or it does, if it reaches one person. And so for whoever didn't hear that episode, definitely go back and listen to Michelle's advice because it's really powerful and beautiful. But to give a quick summary, you talked about just how at the end of the day, you need to write a book for you and you need to write something that matters to you. And then if you do that, then it doesn't really matter how many people end up reading it, because it's been worth it, because it helped you. And that's so, so beautiful. So my question now is for people now that they are starting out if they decide to write a book or want to write a book, but they're seeing all this success or all these other things that are being done. And then the imposter syndrome creeps in and you think, well, I can't do that. Or I don't have something worthy to say like that person. How do you personally combat imposter syndrome? Because I think it's something we all battle.
I definitely think that we all battle it.
I'm so sorry.
Drink that water, girl.
My throat. I'm so sorry. Okay. Go.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. There are often times where, and it's not so much for me writing a book. I mean, I have another one in the works.
Nice.
And it's not that yes, there's a question of like, is it worthy enough? But it's really a question of, can I sit my butt down and keep writing right now? For me, the imposter syndrome comes right now with things that I not post, but things that I'm involved in. So right now it's activism, and I'm surrounded by these incredible people who have all been active, who have been vocal for a long time. They have big audiences, and I'm coming and going, well, who am I to be in this circle to promote whatever it is, to share this information when there's people out there doing it. But then at the end of the day, it always comes back to what I tell my clients, what I share on the show is that we all tell the story in a different way that's unique to us. Mm-hmm. And so we may think that it doesn't matter, but it does matter because people are listening to us. They're listening to you because of the way that you show up. Mm-hmm. And it's unique. And it's the fact that you are unique and you are different. You are who you are. You have lived experience that others don't. Mm-hmm. And even if they have lived through exactly what you have, it's like looking at my brother. We lived in the same household. We grew up together. But yet we also approach life in two very different ways.
Right.
Even though we've had these shared experiences.
Right.
So I think that's the part where imposter syndrome can get kicked to the side. Mm-hmm. I just did a solo episode, it will have aired by now, about how women our age who they say, I don't care anymore. It's I don't care. I have zero fucks left to give. Women are raging. It's all of these negative things. And it occurred to me that it's not that we don't care. We've actually figured out what we care about. And I think that also comes into play when we talk about imposter syndrome. It's not that we don't care what other people think. We're always going to care. We're human beings. But it's the fact that we know what's important to us and putting that out there and focusing on that. I think that's how I tackle it
Mm,
per se,
yeah.
and how I'm looking at it. And that, yes, I have moments of doubt that creeps in, and then I kick myself in the butt, or, send a text to a friend and
Yeah.
then get reminded. I think it's really important that we surround ourselves with those people, those friends who can say, okay, I get what you're saying,
Right.
but let me make it clear from someone who's on the outside what it actually looks like. Let me remind you of the things that you have accomplished.
Mm.
I'm sounding like you
Now I'm
now all of a
affecting you.
sudden.
It's like contagious.
Contagious through the states and the screens.
Mhm.
But to have somebody remind you
Yeah.
of, what there are things that I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. Like that. Yeah, I did that. It's no big deal. And
Mhm.
then I have one good friend who's like, hello, no, nobody else has done that. Shut up. You're like,
Yeah.
look at yourself for a minute and
Yeah.
consider that. So I think it's important to have those cheerleaders to help us get
Absolutely.
over those humps.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, and I love all of that. And I think that's great advice on how to come to your center, right? Come to the center of why you do what you do, why you're doing it, and having the people in your life that are going to encourage and support you, because it is inevitable in any endeavor that you will have weeks where sales don't come in, or clients don't come in, or your posts aren't doing well, or your book's not selling as many copies, or this person got invited to this event, you weren't even on the list, whatever it may be, right? And especially like as a business owner, it can get discouraging. And I think it can also, and especially when everything's online, and our businesses are online and they're present, and so you're also seeing what other people are doing, and it can get very easy to be like, oh, I'm not doing that, or I'm not doing that, I didn't get invited to that, or whatever it may be. And you doubt yourself, or you start to think, does what I do matter? And that's kind of what we started to address last week, in terms of, if only 3 people read your book, but it really resonated with them. Does what I do matter? And the advice you've given last week and now is such good advice in terms of battling that, and coming back to the center. Why did I write it in the first place? Well, I wrote it for me, so it was worth it.
Mhm.
Why do I do my job? Well, I do my job because this. And then you have those friends or those people that can say, and look at the people you've touched. Look at the people that you have impacted in a positive way. And that matters. Your work matters, because we live in a world where very, very often, regularly, important and valuable voices aren't heard, or people who have really beautiful, amazing things to say don't get a chance to really say them, or maybe only 3 people hear it. But like you said, they have their own unique voice, and it is needed for the time they are in right now. And so that's been one of the things I do to combat it, is to say, um, I think I said this in a previous episode too, but I am letting go of the things not meant for me. And if you've done your best and you're staying true to your core of who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, you have to let all that other noise go and say, I'm not going to let the lack of Amazon reviews, or the, lack of business this week, or whatever it may be, impact my view of my own value, or my own worth, or what I'm doing. And I want to be clear, it doesn't mean you don't assess, or you don't, kind of go back to the drawing board and say, how else do I want to do this? Or how do I want to support these people? Or, like in your case with the activism, how do I want to show up in my own unique way? What does that look like for me, Michelle? So we're always kind of reassessing on that front, but it's not a reassessment of value, or of worth, or if I should do it. It's a, how could I do it this way? Or what would fulfill me? Would it fulfill me to do it this way? Whatever. But I love that advice in terms of just coming back to the center of that. And you do absolutely need people in your life that are going to be encouragers and supporters, and not competitors.
Yeah.
Because if your only support are people you're in business with, but also somewhat, I mean, in a lot of these industries, like you and I are one woman shows, right? There's a lot of one woman shows out there, or one person shows out there who in a sense, we're all competing for business, or, like you and I aren't, but you know what I mean in terms of that world. And, um, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought again. Perimenopause. But all that to say, I just love what you had to say about that, because, um, you need to not just surround yourself with business people. People are in the same industry as you.
Mhm.
You need people at home in your real world that can say, wow, look at what you're doing. And that's really important.
I think it's also hard in the online sphere where we have people with loud voices, and then you have followers who praise everything they do.
Mm.
Like they went to the bathroom by themselves, and people are like, "Oh my God,
You're so
it's amazing.
brave. You're so
You're
brave.
so incredible. I can't believe it."
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when we see that, we're like, "Really?" Because I went to the bathroom myself too, like
Nobody
for the
gave
last
me
42 years, but
yeah.
that's cool. Um, and I think that's really hard, but I also think it's hard, and this is it tell me if you, especially in the business that you're in, if this has happened. I'm seeing, and I know that impersonation is like the highest form of flattery, but I call it copying.
That is.
And I'm getting that more and more. I've gotten it over the years,
Mm-hmm.
but there's one person who she took an Instagram handle the day after my book came out that had to do with a trademark I have. And stupid me, first of all, for not having owned that Instagram handle, but I hadn't thought about it. And I approached her. She's not American. And I was very kind and explained who I am, that I have this trademark. Can you relinquish it? And she came back, well, I'll think about it. And I went, well, that's not the right answer. So the next step will be that you will hear from my attorney. And then all of a sudden she gave it back. Well, fast forward now over a year later, and I'm on Amazon and I'm checking my book. And guess what? There's a book with the same title and the word more, how to get on more podcasts. And she has self published it.
Is it the same gal?
Same gal. Yeah, same gal. So I have someone outside of America who's copying literally
What you do.
what I do. And it's not that nobody can pitch a podcast. Like, of course, there's tons of people, but naming your book and then taking my trademarked tagline is copying. And then I've seen another person online using literally my content and turning
What?
it into theirs. Yeah, like literally, I will put out a podcast episode on something, and then there's a post saying exactly the same thing. And I'm like, it's not coincidence. It's not.
No.
And so in that case, I'm like, well, imitation is not, it doesn't flatter me. I think it's weird and it's gross. And I think that's a sign of imposter syndrome for those people,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't create something on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Except then when you see them receive that praise,
Mm-hmm.
that's the part where I'm going, well, wait, I literally just said that.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I know y'all are watching,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do I want to say next?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
Yes.
have you had that happening, especially with your art? Like I can imagine that someone's going to come out and be like, well, I can make a pie too.
Yeah, it has. And it I had someone that I discovered recently copied basically like my business plan and what they do, but it's not with pies. And it was really hard. It was really debilitating because they're very talented. But I saw them doing that, and I go back and forth because I really do try to say, there's room for all of us, right? But like you said, it's imitate, it's copying or it's imitating. You need to create something of your own. And I get that that's really hard to do. I get that it's, hard to create your own little niche out there. And everyone has been inspired by somebody, right? Like everybody, I had a variety of pie artists. Now they didn't do book pies, but pie artists that inspired me to push myself in terms of playing with the gluten-free dough. And whenever asked in interviews at the very beginning when I was starting to get some traction, I always mentioned them because they were incredible. Like the Pious, she Pieous, she is on Instagram. She is insanely talented. I mean, incredible pie art, and just a real huge supporter of everybody out there doing pie art and baking and all sorts of things. She's incredible. Um, and so, and then there was an account, a Carried Affair, who she does a lot of DIY home renovation. I mean, she's so talented, but she's the one that figured out you could dye pie dough with food coloring, like, and mix and like actually mix it into the dough versus most people paint it on after it's
Mm-hmm.
done. And I had no idea it would saturate like that. Now, she doesn't do book pies. She would do like heart, like different holiday pies or things like that. Um, but obviously that was a skill I didn't know, we could even do. And then that led to a whole new world for me where turns out I do have a knack. I mean, the color theory, that's me, right? That's not somebody else doing that. That's me figuring out how to dye the dough exactly the right color. Um, and then I've challenged myself, and, we all learn from other people is what I'm trying to say. A really long-winded example, but and it's important to acknowledge those people that have inspired us, because everyone is a result of building blocks of the people who've come before you.
Mm-hmm.
However, and this comes back to the why. If you just want to show up in a space because you want admiration or traction, or to take out somebody else, to grow your own business in a way, to almost usurp the person that was there, I have no space for that. I have no space for that. And I get that we live in a competitive world, and I get that business owners are hustling, but I have no space for coming in and taking somebody else's idea. And unfortunately, I am sad to say that when I saw that happening, it debilitated me. Like, it debilitated me to the point where I was like, I shouldn't be even working anymore. Like, my space isn't valid anymore because someone else is doing it and they might be doing it better. And so I don't know that I have a space here anymore to show up. And I completely disregarded why I was doing this in the first place. And one of the things that I think it was actually Laura Dern at the Hello Sunshine event last year, one of the things that I find most impactful, hearing women speak at leadership conferences, or, all these women in business, is when they say you put your blinders on like a horse with their blinders and you stay in your lane and you just keep going. Does competition drive improvement? Sure, to a degree. You see somebody doing something, you're like, I got to up my stakes. But I think at the end of the day, it can cause more damage. It can, if you're focusing on what other people are doing, or if they're doing it better, or those kind of things, you have to stay in your lane. Now, that's not to say you should absolutely be approaching that woman, because that is your property. And that if you see someone plagiarizing or copying what you do, that you have trademarked or that's yours, absolutely, you should be challenging that. But for me personally, in my situation, I had to kind of put my blinders on and be like, I cannot look at her. I cannot look that way, because there's nothing I can do about it. And I have to focus on why I do what I do. Because like you said, no one is going to show up in the same way you do. You may look at what they do and think, ooh, they're doing that better, or they're getting bigger names to see what they do. And yeah, it hurts. I mean, it sucks. You're like, oh, why not me? And then that's when that imposter syndrome grabs you and is like, well, why are you even in this space? Why are you showing up here? Because you don't have the voice this person does, or you don't have the talent this person does. The reality is Michael Jackson, him too. Michael Jordan, all his stats were broken by somebody else. Someone
Right.
always is coming along that will inevitably do what you do in a way that looks better or like statistically potentially better doesn't mean what you did wasn't worth it because someone may be able to do it what the world considers better than you. No, because like you said, why did you do it in the first place? And it's like your fingerprint, right? No one else can do it your way. And that's what I had to focus on is I stand behind my work. Every single pie I create is my own unique style. It is my own look. I don't look at other people's designs to get inspiration for my pie designs. Now, obviously, I base them off the covers. So, where would I be without cover designers? Nowhere. They're incredible. But I get to highlight their art and the art of the book in my own way. And that is such a gift. And no one else is going to do it like I do it. Right.
Exactly.
And I have to stand behind that and say, I know what I pour into this. I know I'm using gluten-free pie dough. I'm not using fondant. I'm not using, what other people have said, Play-Doh, different things. It's hard. Gluten-free pie dough is
Wait,
hard.
people thought that you used Play-Doh?
Mhm,
Play-Doh?
mhm, mhm, mhm. Most people think they're cakes with fondant, which makes me cranky. Like that's my number one pet peeve is when people call my pies cakes. And
You're the pie
pie
lady.
lady, it's an
You're
honest
not the cake lady.
Mm-mm. And I hate cake decorating. I don't hate watching other people do it. I hate doing it. Um, and I know it's usually an honest mistake, but I'm like, that's not fondant. That's gluten-free pie dough. Do you know how fragile gluten-free pie dough is? Do you know how easily it falls apart? And I have to remind myself that's my own space, right? I show up in that way. Is there someone else who could come in and like the pious? She decides I want to start doing book pies. And I mean, she could blow me out of the water in a heartbeat, right? But it doesn't mean I'm not valuable in that space. Just because she is a better technical artist and she can draw in ways I never will be able to do, my work still matters because it's not just the art, it's my heart behind it, it's the words I say in my review, it's the way I care for the authors, it's every little piece of it that makes me who I am and my page what it is. Just like with you, this woman more, but does she have your heart? Does she have, well, clearly not because she stole your work, but does she have the way you show up for your authors? You read every single book. You talked about that last week. You care deeply. You legitimately want the authors to succeed. And you want, as the podcast matchmaker, to end them, to put them on a place that is not only going to help their business, but help them succeed in the future. You care so much about helping people market their books and their businesses. And it shows through everything you do. And it's just like your activism. You pour your heart into that. No one can copy your heart. People may be able to copy your words. They cannot copy your heart. And I think like you just hit the nail on the head when you talked about the why and the core. And I think that is the answer to imposter syndrome is to put on your blinders, not legally. If you need to take legal repercussions, please do so.
We have a
But
great attorney we can refer you to.
yes, but if there's nothing else you can do, you put your blinders on and you remember your heart and you remember your why. Not to sound cliche, but it does matter. Like it just, people are saying, remember your why, but for real, remember why you do it. Remember why you showed up in this space in the first place, because no one else in this earth is going to show up in that space like you do. Doesn't
Exactly.
matter how oversaturated it is. No one will show up like you do. And it's important that you do. Because what if it's that one person you impact in a huge way? 110% worth it. 110%.
Preach. I
Yeah.
think we just took everyone to church.
We did. We did. And it's good for me. I need to say this stuff. I'm just going to re-listen to this episode when
I
I'm
say it all the time. When I go off on these rants for myself, I like to remind everyone that this is actually for me,
yeah,
not
it
you,
is.
because I needed to pep talk myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we do need to pep talk
We
ourselves.
do. We do. And I like personally, I am so sensitive. I am. I don't have a super thick skin in dealing with the influencer world or the world in general. I'm not great at blowing things off. I'm never, ever going to be the type of person that just shoves my way to the top and steps on people to get there. If I have ever done so, it has been completely accidentally, like oopsies, kind of a thing. And I hope I haven't. But I will never be someone that's like, oh, I'm just going to make connections just to see where this gets me. Or, and some people, that is a legitimate business strategy that people utilize. For me, I probably will never be as successful as I could be because I'm unwilling to do it. And it can get really hard. So when I see other people doing it, my heart hurts. And then it affects my art. Like I'll be like, I have the yips. I can't make a pie. I can't figure out how to do this pie because it just messes with me mentally. So I think it's really important to stay in that good mental space, whatever it looks like for you, whether it be writing a Post-it note every morning on your mirror or where you work and say, the way I show up matters. Only I am here. Only I can do this thing.
You
And
know
you
what you
do it.
can do? You can get shower notes,
Yes. Ooh,
shower love notes.
I
And
love
so
that.
we have a pad in the shower.
I love that.
It comes with a red pencil and a blue pencil.
Oh,
And the
nice.
kids and I write inspirational
Oh, I
messages to one
love
another. And
that.
we do it until it gets full. Then we
Mm-hmm.
rip it off and I keep it in a keepsake. But they're
I love
always
that.
like hardcore, punch it, type of things. Same thing for their lunch boxes. If they get a cold lunch, I write them a note every
Mm-hmm.
day that they
Yeah.
love. It's so funny. Even at 9 and 10, they're like, you wrote a note, right?
Yeah.
Please.
Oh,
But we write notes to each other to do that inspiration. And that's why every day when they get out of the car, they go, own it, own it. We
oh,
all
I
say,
love
own
that.
it. Yeah.
I love that.
Today I made a rhyme and I
Ooh.
probably shouldn't have, but I said, own it, slay the day, and go kick some ass today. And they were like, oh, we get to kick ass. I'm like, you
Yay.
do.
You
Go,
do. You
go.
do. I give you my
Yes.
permission.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so powerful. So, so powerful.
That or it's going to get them in trouble with the principal. But,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
that's
I mean,
power too.
it is. It is. You know what you just say? My mom told me to kick ass today. So what is he going to say to that?
Because I warned him in kindergarten, if they come to you because they had a foul mouth, it is all me.
Yeah.
It is me, and I will take the blame.
I will.
So far, we've made it to 4th grade and haven't had an incident.
That's
So,
great. There you
yeah,
go.
so
You're
far,
doing
so
great.
good.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I love it. I want you to
Yeah.
know that I think that what you do is beautiful. And
Thank
it's
you.
not only the pie art, because I know that you read every book too for
Mhm.
every one of your clients, which is absolutely incredible. And you include your reviews. And I know that it's as meaningful to you I know that we both feel honored that
Mhm.
people choose to work with
Yes.
us.
Oh, in a big way.
They
Big
don't
way.
it's not that we're simply like, "Hey, let's do this. Yippee," they choose to work with us.
Mhm.
Just as we choose I assume we've never talked about this. You choose certain have you ever said no to a client?
I have. Yeah.
Okay, me
I
too.
don't like it, but I have. Yes.
Yes, same. And so it's a mutual admiration that we put out there because
Mhm.
not only do people trust us and what we do because there's art in both forms of what we do.
Absolutely.
But there's a trust that we're going to represent these people
Mhm.
to the world in
Yes.
a respectful manner, in a manner that
Yes.
reflects who they are, the work that they've done. And, they trust us and we trust them that they're also not going to go and, for me, like shoot their mouths off and say something that we're all going to go, oh, crap.
Yeah. Great.
That,
Yeah.
that was recorded. So, there's that mutual respect and admiration. And I
Absolutely.
think that what you do is so much more than creating pies.
Thank you. I
It really
appreciate
is.
that.
And I
Thank
want you
you.
to recognize that too,
Thank
because
you.
I feel like you need to hear that I see
Thank you.
that,
Thank you
that
so
that's why
much.
I'm liking every post and
I know
I'm
you
commenting
are
it
my
and I'm like,
biggest supporter, and it literally means the world because it's
and I find
right
new
out there.
books too. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh, there's another new one. And
Yeah.
you're not helping my TBR pile.
Thank you. That means so much to hear. Especially from you, someone that I respect so much for how you do your business and how you handle your business. And I think, one thing that both of us value deeply, and that's why we're able to do this podcast and have a friendship, is integrity, and integrity behind what we do. So even if it's not, you know, the book I would pick up to sit down, like when the world is ending, right? I can look at it and say, this matters because of this, or I think this is going to reach somebody because of this, you know? And so it's easy to get an idea like, oh, they got publicity, they paid for that publicity, so it doesn't really matter, it doesn't count. Well, that's not true at all, because you and I, the way we run our business is that we pick people that we want to work with, or that we want to get their books out there, even if it's pretty different from something I would normally pick up. We do that because it matters to us. And so what we say, and the way we promote people, there is an integrity behind that. It's not just oh, I was paid for this, so I'm going to say nice things. No, like, I was paid for this, yes, because it takes me 6 hours to create art to help highlight your book. But I am saying the words for free. I'm saying the words because they're what I mean and they're what I feel, you know? And if I can't say the words, I'm going to cancel the commission, or I'm going to say no to the client, because I don't want to not be honest about that. And I appreciate that with you too. You have so many different people on your podcast, and some may be authors of books that you would never have picked up before, you know, or different things, but you read every single book and you say, hey, like, we need to get your voice out there. We need to do it in an honest way. And I think that means the world to people, because you are genuinely backing them. I mean, I am hard pressed to find one person that you've had on your podcast that you're not like best friends with at this point, right? Like, you meet us, and then you invest and you encourage and you say, hey, like, I really love what you do. And that is such a gift, Michelle. I mean, such a gift,
Thank you.
because
And I
we
don't
need
get
it.
paid for the books that are on the show. I
Right,
get
right,
paid
right.
for the ones that I'm pitching, but I
Yes.
don't get paid to read the
No,
books of the
no, no,
authors
no,
that are on the show.
no. Yeah,
So it is a true investment of,
it
okay, I'm
is.
gonna sit down and read this. And
Yes.
it's funny that you mentioned that I'm best friends with, like, all the guests. And I truly feel like when I say to someone, I really like you.
Hmm.
Can we be friends?
Yeah.
So many times I get the, "What?
Really?
Like, are you really wanna be friends?" Like that. And
Oh,
I go, "I know it's a weird thing to say, but I like you." So,
yeah.
and it's interesting to see those who understand it and see the genuineness when I say it
Mhm.
versus those who are like,
I can
"Okay."
attest to the fact that she means it. She actually means it. She will be a loyal friend. And when I say you want Michelle in your corner, you want Michelle in your corner. So if she offers you friendship, take it.
And
Do
don't
not
abuse it.
hesitate.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do not abuse it, or you'll have to deal with me. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And it's important. It's really important what you do.
Thank you. I feel
Yeah,
the same way about
thank
you and what
you.
you
I
do.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming to our Love Fest.
This was wonderful. I have
And
really
church.
enjoyed our conversation, and it's impacted me. It's given me a
Good.
good tangible thing to lock into for combating imposter syndrome today, going back
Good.
to that core. So thank you for
So
that.
you own it. You're going to slay the day and go kick some ass
I'm gonna
today.
kick some ass today.
From the
Absolutely.
poet who didn't know it.
I think we're done. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the mic drop.
Yeah. That's
That's
it.
it.